Um, my name is Margaret Barnes, and I'm a member of the League of Women Voters of the Jackson area.
Yes, ma'am.
The League is a nonprofit and nonpartisan organization. The League provides voter education to help voters make informed choices. However, the League never supports nor opposes any particular candidate or political party. Hinds County voters, we have a special election on Tuesday, November the 2nd, 2021, and we urge you to go to the polls. The polls will be open between 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. and to elect a new sheriff, a county judge, and a District 5 constable. So we urge you to go and vote. Today, we have with us a candidate for sheriff to interview. We have interim Sheriff Marshand Crisler. We are so happy to have you with us here today, and thank you. Sheriff Crisler, in order to prepare you for the interview, I will give you a question and you will have a minute and a half to respond. There are 5 questions. Are you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The first question is, what is your experience and education that prepares you to be Hinds County Sheriff?
Well, thank you for the question. And let me first say too, thank you for the opportunity to have this interview. I think what certainly distinguishes me from my opponents is my educational background and my experience combined. I have 2 degrees in criminal justice, one from Hinds Community College and one from the I Love Jackson State University. I also have a master's in public policy and administration from Jackson State University, and I'm currently in my dissertation phase of my PhD in urban and regional planning. In terms of my experience, it goes all the way back to 1987 when I joined the United States Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, I was an infantryman, then I transferred over to military police. And my military police career expanded from there. I served in the combat military police for the Army and also security forces, which is equivalent to military police in the Air Force. And I retired as a major, came in as a private and retired as a major. Joined the Hinds County Sheriff's Department in 1992, did 20 years on the Sheriff Malcolm E. McMillan. Most of that time, I was serving as an investigator in a narcotics unit. I also became chief of police of Utica Police Department, spent time there, ended up retiring from the Sheriff's Department. I came back and, let me just say I did 2 terms as a city councilman, came back to the city of Jackson as the chief administrative officer and public safety commissioner. And under that title, I was overseeing the police department and the fire department for the city of Jackson. The other experience I think is really important for this particular office is that it is an administrative office. This is not a constable office. This is the largest sheriff department in the state of Mississippi. It has a $30 million budget and almost 500 employees. As the former chief administrative officer for the largest city in the state, and over the largest budget, municipal budget in the state, which I was over as a city councilman and chief administrative officer, which is a $300 million budget. I think those things are what set me apart from my certainly opponents. And I think it's very important for the citizens of Hinds County to know that they put somebody in the seat they can lead on day one. Where I'm leading the seat right now, I've been in office 60 days, and we're already done some remarkable things to get crime under control and get the jail and detention center up to standard.
Thank you. Thank you. The second question. The Hinds County Detention Center is under a U.S. Department of Justice consent decree, demanding improvements at the detention center. How will you address the consent decree?
Well, the better question is, and I appreciate that question, is what am I doing right now to resolve the consent decree? Well, right now I'm working hand in hand with the Department of Justice personnel to ensure that we meet the prerequisites set aside by them. We have a very competent and extremely dynamic jail administrator by the name of Major Cat Bryan, who works directly with, again, the Department of Justice to address those conditions and our prerequisites that have been set aside. We're 85% there. We feel like we'll be able to do the other 15% within the next 2 to 4 weeks. The other thing I want to educate the voters about is that this consent decree expands beyond the walls of the Hinds County Sheriff's Department. In other words, there are prerequisites and guidelines that the Board of Supervisors must abide by as well and satisfy. And let me be very clear about this. It's not just about us doing our part, being the Hinds County Sheriff's Department. It's about the Board of Supervisors along with the Hinds County Sheriff's Department. We both must meet the DOJ standards to come from beneath this consent decree. I think that's very important for the voter to understand. There is a partnership between the Hinds County Board of Supervisors and the Hinds County Sheriff's Department. In order to make law enforcement work in the county, those two organizations have to be partnered. Now, what's important to the voter to know is that the current sheriff, me, I was elected unanimously by the Board of Supervisors to hold this position. That speaks volumes because this board is not known for unanimous decisions. So it speaks volumes that the 5 board members thought enough of me to put me in this position based on my experience, based on my educational aptitude to be able to manage this job. Again, the largest sheriff department in the state of Mississippi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The third question, how do you plan on recruiting, training, and retaining more officers?
That's a great question. I've as I mentioned to you, my background expands a lot of career fields, but the one that I certainly lean on the most, ladies and gentlemen, is my military background. As I mentioned to you, I began in the United States Marine Corps. I came in as a private. Anybody knows anything about the military? It's the lowest you can come in at. And I worked my way all the way up to a field grade officer as a major. And I say that to say is that I believe in leading by example. And I think to be a great leader, you have to be a good follower. And I was a great leader only because I started at the lowest rank. What I mean by that is the reason why I think I did so well in the military, because I had a lot of great leaders. I modeled myself after those leaders, and I want my men and women in rank and file of the Hinds County Sheriff's Department to model themselves after me, much like I modeled myself after my predecessor, which was Malcolm E. McMillan. In law enforcement, you have to be very strict, very stern, and very much committed to fighting crime from the front. And I'm a frontline leader, and I believe in if I carry myself a certain way, I think the men and women in rank and file would do the same. I try to keep myself in good shape. I try to make sure I keep myself in a classroom setting, getting educated. I'm going to do the same thing with my men and women within the rank and file. Every year, much like we do in the academia, and I mentioned before, I may or not have, but I teach criminal justice at Hinds Community College, have been teaching there since 2005. I believe that it's important in this generation that we ensure that our men and women in rank and file law enforcement are educationally inclined to be able to deal with the ever-evolving criminal justice system and law enforcement. And so I'm going to be requiring that professional development be part of our model. We will require 3 hours of PDIs on an annual basis to ensure that our officers remain certified and remain employed with the Hinds County Sheriff's Department. I believe in putting our officers in a classroom setting to make sure they're properly trained to deal with the unique issues that we deal with here in the 21st century. We're also going to bring in partners. I believe in reallocation of resources and not defunding the police. We're going to bring in social services actors to help us, our partners, to help us in this equation. The mental health community will be very much a part of it. We'll also bring in social workers because we know that the issues that we deal with in law enforcement today go beyond what they teach us and train us in the academy. However, I'm going to put our officers in a training environment at all times so they'll at least be able to recognize a mental health crisis or some type of issue that requires counseling, and that we can get to the right personnel on scene to make sure we're dealing with crime in a holistic manner. So I hope that makes sense, and I hope I answered that question.
Thank you for that answer. Our fourth question is, what are your strategies for crime prevention to make Hinds County safe?
One of the things I'm going to do is reinstate the crime prevention unit. I used to be a member of that unit. That unit is dedicated to coming up with crime prevention strategies to ensure that we are tackling crime head on and that we're addressing the needs of the whole community. Part of that would be the community policing model. I teach this again in a classroom setting. And community policing, as simple as put, is police working directly with the community to resolve crimes. In order to do that, Ms. Margaret, I think people need to understand you can talk about community policing, But in order to understand it and know it, you have to understand the only way the community is going to work with law enforcement, they must trust law enforcement. And what I'm trying to do is instill a model where our officers are directly involved with the community. In other words, they're getting out of their vehicles, they're shaking hands with the community leaders, and they're getting to know them on a one-on-one basis, on a first name basis. So I'm requiring my deputies to interact with the community where the community knows them, again, in a very personal setting. And if I get in contact with community leaders and they don't know my deputy by on first name basis, I'm going straight to the deputy and we're going to have a conversation and I'm going to impress upon them. It's a career decision. If you don't get out there and meet with these community leaders and know your community, and they should know you. So I do believe that's the way you fight crime. You have to empower the community, and the community has to trust you to get you that delicate intelligence, as we call it, to make sure we know who's committing these heinous crimes in their community. And the community will be more apt to share that information with you when they trust you, when they know your name, when they know who is responsible for fighting crime in their area. So that's my model of making it all work.
Thank you very much. That leads to our fifth and final question. Law enforcement in Hinds County consists of the sheriff's office plus police departments from 6 municipalities. How do you see all these agencies working together to be more effective?
Actually, if I heard you correct, it's actually 8 municipalities. There are 3 cities and 5 towns, and 2 unincorporated towns, which is Pocahontas and Lerner, Mississippi. Okay. I think what best prepares me for this job, kind of go full circle where we began, is because my entire career in law enforcement has been in a rural setting. I spent 20 plus years with the Hinds County Sheriff's Department and chief of police of a small town called Utica. I understand the unique needs of the rural part of Hinds County. And what voters must understand is our number one priority in the Hinds County Sheriff's Department has to be the rural areas, because a lot of them don't have adequate law enforcement resources to police crime up in those areas, particularly the unincorporated areas. So I think it's very important that the sheriff that sits in this seat understands where his or her responsibility lies. It lies within a rural setting and within that detention center. So I want to make sure we balance that out. But I want people from the city of Jackson to understand I reside in the city of Jackson. So I certainly am committed to fighting crime in our capital city for a lot of reasons, not because I live here, because this is a capital city. Thereby, this is the capital county. So these are the places that visitors come to shop, to visit, to tour. And I want to make sure they're doing it in a safe environment. So when I tell you the partnerships with those 8 municipalities is critical, I understood that on day one. Second week in office, I created a memorandum of understanding with the Board of Supervisors to create a gun suppression unit. And that gun suppression unit is dedicated to getting dirty guns off of our streets. And when we talk about dirty guns, we're talking about convict plus gun equals dirty gun. So repeat offenders, violent crime offenders, people who have prior convictions should not be carrying weapons. So when we catch them with weapons, we're going to prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. But when we incarcerate these folks, we want to make sure that people understand we're not locking them up and throwing away the key. We're going to put them in a classroom setting. We're going to make sure that they get some type of vocational technical degree, perhaps a GED first, a vocational technical degree, so they can get a skill set to earn a living wage once they get out of jail. Because Margaret, what I want to have happen under my tenure is I want the people who we incarcerate to come out better than they went in. And so that's my commitment to the citizens of Hinds County to ensure that we have a real holistic approach to solving these issues. We have law enforcement working very well. We need to get the judicial branch to do their part, and the correctional side is my responsibility as well. And we're going to do rehabilitation for those who continue to commit crimes within our communities, because we want to certainly wean them off of doing that. And again, we want to make them productive citizens. So we do have a holistic approach and a 21st century crime fighting plan to make sure that Hinds County is not only safe for us to live, but to raise all of our families.
Sheriff Crisler, thank you for participating. And I would like to remind the Hinds County voters of this important election on Tuesday, November the 2nd, 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
You too.